So what is the difference between really being in love and having the fantasy of being in love, a fantasy bond or illusion of connection? There's a real stark distinction. I think in a really loving relationship, people are open to feedback from one another. They want to grow and develop themselves. You care what your partner thinks. So when they have something to say to you, you don't look for all the flaws in what they're saying and how that wasn't really the situation, or they just don't understand, or getting really angry or crying and falling apart, all these things that shut them up. If you really are in love with somebody, you want to know what they think, and you want to expand your boundaries, and you want to develop, and you want to be the best person you can be. Also, when relationships get into a fantasy bond or that illusion of connection, often people get very closed down and routinized in their behavior. This is how we treat each other, these are the things we'll do together, these are the things we don't do together, and they're not open to new experiences. And there has to be shared experiences to keep love alive, where you're keeping up that intensity, that fun, building those shared memories. It's a really important part of keeping love alive. Another thing is that people tend to be dishonest in relationships. And when there's a fantasy bond, there's the words, I love you, with no behaviors that look loving. And that is the most crazy-making thing you can do to another person. It's really important in a relationship that you're honest, that when you love the person, there's actually behaviors that show that you're loving. That when you have other feelings towards them, like you're frustrated or you're critical, that you say, you know, I don't know what's going on, but I feel really critical of you right now. Now, that doesn't mean you say all the negative things that flow through your head that might be for the purpose of creating distance, but you do communicate the important things, and you don't deceive them. You don't fracture their sense of reality, because that actually is a human rights violation that drives people crazy. That's another thing that really hurts other people. It's important to keep the sexuality alive, to have a real give and take experience, where you're both alive and experiencing close emotional contact at the same time. In a relationship where there's a fantasy bond, there's often dissatisfaction in the sexual relationship, a lack of affection, or it becomes very routinized or mechanical, people often say, where this is what we do, this is how we do it, when we do it, and it's not about really relating anymore. Or it's about what one person can get from the other person and what the other person can hold back from the other person. It's not a real warm and generous give and take between two people. Also, in a relationship characterized by fantasy bond, there's a lot of overstepping of the other person's boundaries. Talking as a we like this, we like that, not letting them talk for themselves. Somebody asks your partner a question and you answer. That's overstepping their boundaries. What you really want is a relationship where you respect that they're a completely separate person, and you know what? You're a completely separate person too, who could survive without them, but you prefer to share time together, you know, or share life together. But it has to be that choice as two individuals coming together, not somehow becoming this merged identity where you can't survive without the other one. Also, it's really important in a loving relationship to ask directly for what you want and need, to try to express those things very directly, even if they're not all that rational. Like, what I'm feeling right now is I really want this, or I really, you know, want you just to pay attention to me, or all those things we think we can't say. You're much better off saying them than trying to manipulate the person to give you that attention, or trying to intimidate them to give you that attention, either directly by being somehow aggressive toward them, or by being passive-aggressive and falling apart and drawing attention to yourself. You need to be two adults in this relationship, and the more you can keep the equality, asking about each other's days, not just one-sided, doing things for each other, not just one-sided, the more that's going to help keep the love alive and the real acknowledgement that you're two separate people.